great William Idle, Esquire. There was a rock star. Welcome back to the Dennis Miller Show. And we're taking your calls, 866-509-RANT in our next segment. So why don't you queue up now? Gets a little hot and heavy. I want you to get there near the front of the line at 866-509-7268. And we are joined now by Chuck DeVore. He is a Republican candidate for the U.S. Senate running against the dreaded Barbara Boxer in California. Chuck, how are you?
The dreaded Boxer who Obama, the man with the reverse Midas touch, is coming out to raise some big bucks for tonight.
Well, that's great because at this point he's got shorter coattails than a nude midget. So bring him out. Bring him out.
I'm still dealing with that visual.
ChuckDevore.com, and that's DEVORE.com is the website if you're intrigued. And I will peel back the DeVore campaign here, but I have to say there are many better stamps of imprimatur for me than Melanie Morgan of Warriors for Congress. She mentioned she's working with you. So tell me a little bit about yourself, Chuck, and your background.
Well, I'm a lieutenant colonel in the U.S. Army Reserve. I was the youngest Reagan White House appointee in the Pentagon, where I worked for Cap Weinberger until someone younger than me was appointed. I guess that it can be inevitable. Worked in the aerospace industry for a number of years and was a VP of research for a company that worked with Boeing and Lockheed Martin and Raytheon and Northrop Grumman. And it was at that position that I was then elected to the California State Assembly in 2004, and I've served in the State Assembly for 6 years. And last year, when the biggest tax increase in U.S. history at the state level was being pushed through, I was chief Republican whip, but I resigned in protest and then worked very hard to defeat the extension of that tax increase, which we voted on May 19th, and in fact was defeated almost 2-1. Been working really hard on beating Barbara Boxer because I'm neither a multimillionaire nor a celebrity, having a face definitely made for radio, so I've just been methodically working the state. I've had about 325 events.
Hustling your buns out there, Chuck.
I am, and we've raised about a little over $1.8 million from some 24,000 individual contributors, making full use of Al Gore's invention. And what we've seen is, I think we've gotten now 6 independent polls since January that show that all 3 of the Republicans are within the statistical margin of error of Barbara Boxer.
Yeah, 2 or 3 points. We're speaking to Chuck DeVore. He's a Republican candidate for the U.S. Senate in California. And Chuck, for somebody with such a resume that is so can-do, tell me about the hellish day-to-day sort of drag of the being in the California state legislature. I mean, it must be maddening, the pace and the gridlock and the bureaucracy there.
Well, the gridlock is maddening only from the standpoint that the far left just seems to lack any shred of common sense. Today, for example, I have a bill up that would open up the California coast to offshore drilling out to the 3-mile limit of state waters, using slant or directional drilling. And this is a sort of drilling you don't need any new offshore rigs. You can do it all from onshore existing rigs. And yet I know for a fact that when my bill comes up in committee, it won't get one Democrat vote. Last fall, you may remember, there was a bill that would have opened up one new lease, the first new lease off the coast for the first time in 40 years. That bill actually passed the state Senate. I was the author of that bill. But the Sierra Club killed it in the state assembly. And here's the insanity of it. My bill, all by itself, because of my incentives for the oil companies to prepay their royalties, would raise $16 billion out of our $20 billion state budget deficit. I mean, I could almost erase the deficit without raising taxes, but will they do it? No.
Chuck,
so, yes, that is maddening.
Would it be fair to say that there are more people in this state now, if you were a person who is earning a living, there are more petitioners for your earnings than there are practitioners of the art of earning? It seems to me that California is near the tipping point where...
We are very near the tipping point. And here's another data point for you that will just blow the Miller socks off, which is that with 1/8 of the nation's population, California, as of the last time I checked, about 6 months ago, we have 32% of the nation's welfare caseload. And if you compare us to Texas, the next largest state, we have 10 10 times more people on welfare than does Texas. You adjust for population, we're 7.1 times more people on welfare than does Texas. It's like, how does this happen?
Well, we've turned into two Margaritaville, quite frankly. And, my right sock did fly right off. My left one hung up, but I have a bunion on my left big toe, so it's kind of hung there. But that is an amazing statistic. Now, listen, Barbara Boxer, I find to be one of the most imperious. And we're talking to Chuck DeVore, Republican candidate for the U.S. Senate in California. If you want to know more about Chuck, it's at chuckdevore with an E.com. And I find her very imperious, and I think I have an ad for you when you take your budget and you're spending out. You should run that when you talk about all her downside, and then at the end play the clip of her saying to the general, please call me Senator. I believe I've earned that. Then have your voiceover guy come back on and say, please call her former Senator. I believe she's earned that. And there you go, baby. I think you got yourself
what I've taken to saying at the rallies that I speak to is, let's make it safe to call Barbara Boxer ma'am again.
That's infinitely more clever. Mine was kind of clumsy and unwieldy, but the same essence. But yours,
you did it on the fly. I've had 325 events to perfect.
Well, you did perfect it, baby, because that is very deft. That's S.J. Perlman there. Now, where are you at in the polling? You said that there are all three candidates on the Republican side are within hailing distance. Is that 2 or 3 points? And what has the trend been recently?
The trend has been to tighten up. The last Rasmussen poll that was released that last week had Tom Campbell 2 points down, me 3 points down, and Carly Fiorina 4 points down from Boxer. They also did an over-under, with a positive and negative name ID. I was plus 13, Campbell was plus 10, Carly Fiorina was plus 2 overall. And so I think that as voters begin to engage in this race and they see that Tom Campbell supported the biggest tax increase in U.S. history at the state level last year, that he supported a 32-cent-a-gallon gas tax increase, and he has some unsavory friends, Samuel Arian and some folks that have been engaged with the Muslim Brotherhood that he's been buddies with over the years, that he's trying mightily to distance himself from and say, who are those people? I have no idea who they were that I was hanging out with. So I think as that begins to happen, he'll begin to drop. And then from a philosophical standpoint, what I've been hammering on that I believe will result in my eventually being the Republican nominee is that on some key issues, there's some commonalities between Boxer and Fiorina and Campbell, like Sonia Sotomayor, the nomination to the U.S.
I got 30 seconds here, Chucky, so let's see your talents at wrapping it up.
Well, Sonia Sotomayor, all three of them, Boxer, Fiorina, and Campbell, supported cap-and-trade energy tax, or AB 32. Boxer, Fiorina, and Campbell all supported various energy tax schemes in the last few years, and the bailout of Wall Street.
Look at you bringing it in on time. Now, there's a lucid candidate, Chuck DeVore, Republican candidate for the U.S. Senate in California. We wish you luck. Back with your phone calls. Paul, you're first up.
The Dennis Miller Show.